Yo, it's Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back on this episode. It is yours truly and my Leopard. Let's talk low-tier scouts. Low-tier scouts, and I happen to be bottom tier, although it's only a 2-tier battle, so that's not too bad. Couple artillery on each side, but it's the little pew-pew kind. Well, the M44 hits pretty hard at this tier, but we are on Redshire. Did I guess right? I did it! I did it! I didn't even look at it. I had to check though, didn't I? I go over towards the blimp, and what used to be one of the best scouting bushes in the game, but see how the rock is very large right there? You cannot see to your right. You used to be able to light up all the guys crossing the little river there, coming up towards the blimp. So what I know right off the bat is, uh-oh, there's nobody over here. So if you're going to go forward to positions like this in scouts, you've got to be ready to get away. The good news at low tier is a lot of tanks have pretty crummy accuracy. So going here in a tier 10 battle and being seen can easily get you dead, but when you're lower tier, you have a reasonable expectation of getting away from situations like this without getting laser blasted from things across the map. And that's a tier 10 and high tier kind of thing. You do have to adjust your game a little bit in some of these more aggressive forward spots. Now, this is not a super aggressive spot, but it can be because it gets countered a lot in the early game. On higher tiers, people will come up along the edge here. I'll show you another place. They'll be waiting over here up high to see you sneak in there. They'll maybe zip along down here. So as long as you don't shoot and get spotted, you're probably all right. And then, of course, the next thing is, well, if I'm here and I'm not shooting, then what's the point? Well, you're looking for stuff like this. So far, it looks like nobody's nearby, so I'm going to go ahead and take a chance and start popping shots into the side of the O1 Experimental. Switch over to APCR just in case I get another light on him. He's lit, but he's behind a rock or some such right there, so he's a little bit hard to hit. And that's what I'm talking about right there. You get guys that get extra aggressive. And I know I'm going to get spotted, so I back out, take a shot, and I dive off the hill. And that's a very, very dangerous move right there at higher tier. More than likely, you eat a shot or two trying to get away in a situation like that. So I'm going to come over here, and it looks like our Sturve and our Churchill are giving them a fight over here. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and hang out here and take some shots. That Leopard's a bit of a thorn in my side here. He's in a good spot to cause me issues. Thought about leaving, and they're holding on, so I'm going to hold on for a moment. But I have to have in the back of my mind getting out of there. Okay, Churchill's still alive. 74 went down. I expected that. Churchill's still fighting the good fight. He's got quite a bit of armor. So one of the reasons I'm sticking around is the fact that he's got that armor, and I have, again, a reasonable expectation that he'll last for a bit. Taking some shots at the 30-45, and I'm just spamming some serious gold. Looks like the T-34 wants to come over the hill at me. So, unfortunately, I miss. Trying to get out of there. There we go. And I know I have that one extra little ridge. I've got a lot of friends back there, so I just need to get out. T-34 reloads and fires pretty quickly. I was probably going to lose that fight face-to-face with him if I allowed him to just keep pew-pewing me in the face. So I swung around, and I'm thinking as I was leaving that I'm getting out of here, and then I realized that Churchill has just really done some yeoman's work in there, staying alive with his 3 hit points. And I wish I hadn't run away so far, because I might have been a little closer to give him some more help and maybe reduce some of the enemy hit points before I got to this position. Again, I thought about leaving, and then I decided, well, we're actually doing pretty well, and I have some support behind me, so I'm just going to sit here and see if I can't find these guys getting aggressive, pushing into here. There's a couple of them are low hit points, so I'm not really sure they're going to do it, but this is a mid to low tier game, so you really never know what's going to happen. You really never know what's going to happen. So I do that for a bit, and now I've got to get my gun back in the game. So be careful about goofing around with things like that. The initial idea was good, but they proved they had little interest in coming in there. So I'll just go find something else to shoot. I saw the Matilda moving through the middle. Really bad move on his part. I'll drop some shots into him, and we'll back off. A little bit of indecision, to be quite honest, on my part right here. I'm not really sure. I don't want to get attacked by 3 of them. I only have 215 hit points. I don't last very long if all 3 came around that corner. Even with the TD and whatnot in the back, I'd probably die, but I end up finding the Matilda still being dopey in the middle, so we'll go ahead and finish this dude off. And I immediately, see how I immediately turned my camera and turned back behind me? I'm just expecting 1 or 2 or all 3 of these guys to show up back there. and I'm a little bit surprised they haven't. So we'll move back here towards the middle. Kind of a dangerous move, to be quite honest. I am quite exposed. If somebody had come down into one of these bushes or this general area over here, I might get seen. There is an Achilles there, but he doesn't have all of this locked down, so there's quite a bit of unknown right here. We've got 3 last seen here, but those are old spots. Who knows where those 3 are now? 12T was seen over here, but that's only 4. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1's unaccounted for. It looks like the Hellcat. I would expect the Hellcat to probably be here, but he may have moved up into these bushes areas or buildings. So dangerous for me to expose myself right there. In addition to that, if I get seen, I'm being shot at by 2 fast-firing, relatively accurate artillery as well. We'll move back this way. I see the Wolverine. Put the brakes on. And I can't tell where he is. He's behind a rock, or maybe even that building was covering him up. There's a couple buildings right there that are relatively high, so I may not have been able to see him because of the building. And the Wolverine goes down, so that's a good kill. 4 of our guys are over on the other side, on the west side, messing around with the 12T. Probably taking fire from the Hellcat, wherever the Hellcat is. That's difficult to push out from the castle area. You can win it, but crossing that open area to get further back in towards their cap is not very easy. If they turtle up an A1, 2, or 3, it can be very hard to push back into there. And look at that. As soon as I left, maybe not exactly as soon as, but after I left, this guy shows up over here. So the little light tank is pushing back in, but dies. Oh, the 12T dies over on this side. The other light tank is back there. What is that? Must be the M7. Pushing back in, but the Stug is doing his thing. I'm going to come up here, and I'm looking really for the Hellcat. That's the one I'd like to find and take down. And I thought maybe the M4 and T-34 had come over here and were sitting up on this ridge, but I cannot find them. The light tank, the M7, there we go. There he is. Look at that. He just camped super hard. He's way back in the corner. Too bad for his team. Now, he may have fallen back, but he was never spotted, so I suspect he didn't. I suspect he was probably back there most of the game. That's unfortunate for his team. Had he been forward firing his gun, they might be so far ahead that we don't win this. The Stug gets the M4, who showed up finally. And now we've got to track down a T-34, an M7, and a Hellcat. I'm a 1-shot to the Hellcat. I'm a 2-shot to the rest of them. Maybe 3 to the M7. But the M7, unfortunately, takes down the Stug. So now it's TDs, and, oh, by the way, I hadn't mentioned it yet, but of course our 3001H is AFK. So he is essentially a scout at this point. Find the M7. A couple misses. That's unfortunate. Cannot get a shot on him, but the Achilles takes him down. Well, I got a shot on him, but I could not put the shot into him. Let's put it that way. So now we've got to track down a Bishop, an LEF, a Hellcat, and a T-34. Moving around. The Type 64 moving around. That's a very good Tier 6 light tank. The Achilles appears to have no intention of moving forward. That's not bad, because if somebody shows up back at the cap again, he can clear him off with our spotter 3001H and all his hit points. So I'm going to come up here. I see the Panzer IV-H has moved into the buildings, or up near them. And I'm just spinning the camera around because I want to see. One thing about what I do with my camera technique, I am looking around constantly with it. You might say, well, why do you do that? You just look at the mini-map. Mini-map awareness is important. It is important to cross-check it and look at it, but it is more important to keep spinning your view around, because the sound that happens when something is spotted doesn't appear to always happen. There's a criteria for it, and the criteria isn't always met, and to be quite honest, I don't know what it is. So the point of that is I don't rely on the mini-map and the sound of someone being spotted. It's part of the cross-check, but I also want to spin my camera around a lot, and sometimes you catch that guy before your sixth sense goes off. And there's a good example. I kind of see him, and there you go. I was just looking around as I went. I caught him. I see he shows up on the mini-map. I see where he is because I'm moving my camera around, and we're able to catch him out moving. So it looks like he was hanging out over on that side the whole time. Got a little anxious as his team started to lose and started moving to fall back. And that's kind of why you go search around with light tanks like that. Look at some of the area that has not been spotted or looked at for a while and see if you can catch them out moving them around. ended up working out really well for me. The Achilles is finally on the move, and he is following up with us, keeping together. The Panzer IV-H has just hidden in those buildings. Good on him. And the Type 64 looks to be super aggressive pushing in, so I'm going to come in here and support him. Grab some of this high ground. I should have been moving earlier based on where he was going. I just didn't assess that he was doing that until later. But he pushes right up where he needs to be. LEF is in there. Down he goes. Looking for some... There we go. So we find the Hellcat sitting in the back. Look at that. Just missed right between the turret and the back deck. Oh, right over top. There we go. One more on him. Did we get him? Yes. And we got an artillery. And that is it. I think I sit here hoping the Bishop comes out from behind the rock. The Type 64 is in on his face. I was almost rooting for the Bishop to shotgun the 64 so I could get the kill, but down he goes for the Type 64. 1,193, 4 kills. You know, not the most epic of games, but just a good example of middle to low tier scouts. At tier 5 is about where scouts start to become scouts instead of just light tanks. There's a crap ton of light tanks at tier 4 and below, but they're not scouts. At about tier 5 and above, you start to get the dedicated kind of light tank scout, and the little Leopard at tier 5 is a great example of that. It's a fun little tank, fairly mobile, actually pretty decent armor for a scout. Interesting little gun there. You can run the autocannon. Oh, look at that thing. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. There's an autocannon on this thing that will absolutely shred lightly armored vehicles. I don't particularly care for it. A lot of people do. I'd rather have the punchier, bigger, slightly bigger anyway, gun. But hey, the autocannon is definitely viable. I have been decimated by autocannon Leopards who've showed up to my side or behind me, and before I can even get turned and start firing, I'm already dead because of that thing. All right, thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it. Little Leopard mid-tier scout action. See ya.